I ever feel like the job market's like this giant puzzle, and
Yeah.
it's always changing,
Yeah.
Like you're just trying to find where you fit in.
Yeah.
Well, today we're diving into something that's kind of like, I don't know, a cheat sheet for your career. RoleCatcher.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely it's tapping into something real, right?
Hmm.
People are switching careers more now than they used to, and with remote work, everything's different. It's a lot of pressure to keep up.
It feels like it's changing every single day. And the thing about RoleCatcher that caught my eye was the AI stuff. And I don't just mean like automating the boring parts, but actually giving you an advantage. They talk about AI resume builders, AI interview practice, even AI career suggestions. It sounds kind of wild.
It's a lot, for sure. But to get into it, we took a close look at their website, specifically their career guides, the interview section, and the one that's either brilliant or terrifying, their jobs page.
All right, well, before we get ahead of ourselves, back up a bit. How does it even work? They say they can beat the automated recruiter with AI, but what does that even mean?
Okay, so you know how most companies use those applicant tracking systems, the ATS things?
Ooh, yeah.
Basically, it's a robot reading your resume before a human even sees it, scanning for keywords and stuff.
Oh, right, right. It's like those things are deciding your fate. You don't even get a chance.
Exactly. So RoleCatcher says their AI analyzes the ATS, like figures out what it wants, and then optimizes your resume and cover letter so it gets through.
So it's playing the robots game.
In a way, yeah, but the goal is to do it without making your application sound fake.
Okay, so not just some generic robot resume. It's more like it helps you stand out.
Yeah, exactly. Using tech to highlight your actual skills, but in
Yeah.
a way that appeals to, well, both the robots and the humans.
Okay, okay, that makes me feel a little better. But what about figuring out what you even want to do? That's the hardest part. They got a ton of info on that too, right? Guides and resources, and it's almost too much.
Yeah, there's a lot. Information overload is a real thing, for sure.
Yeah.
But RoleCatcher does a pretty interesting job organizing it all. Like, they break it down so it's not just this giant, overwhelming data dump.
So give me an example then. What's one of the guides we've got?
We've got one here for Clinical Psychologist, and it's super detailed. It doesn't just tell you what they do. It's got different stages of the career, typical tasks, salary stuff, even common interview questions.
Wow, so it's like a roadmap, but with different paths you can take.
Yeah, and here's the cool part. They also have alternative career paths, so maybe you're into psychology, but not therapy, you know? So it suggests things like market research, industrial organizational psychology, even UX design.
Wait, hold on. You're telling me my psychology degree could get me into, like, designing websites? That's wild. That's why I love these deep dives. Always something new.
It's all about transferable skills. The guide really gets into the core skills of being a clinical psychologist: empathy, communication, problem solving, that kind of stuff, and how this can be used in tons of different jobs.
Okay, I'm intrigued. But before I get too excited, we got to talk about the downsides of all this automation, right?
Mhm.
Like, can it really replace actually understanding the job market? And what happens when everyone's applications start sounding the same?
Oh, for sure, those are valid concerns, and we'll get into that more. Just remember, technology is a tool. It's up to you to use it the right way, and not just become another robot yourself.
And we're back. Still neck deep in RoleCatcher, trying to figure out if this thing's the real deal. Before, we were talking about, the whole AI thing and whether it helps or hurts your job search in the long run.
Right, because it can go both ways, can't it?
Totally. And one part I'm on the fence about is the AI interview practice. Like, can an algorithm really get you ready for a real interview? Feels kind of impossible.
It's a good question. I mean, we've all been there, right? Sitting
Mhm.
there, nervous, trying to remember what you practiced.
Ugh, yeah, my last one felt like therapy and a pop quiz all at once.
It's a lot of pressure. But RoleCatcher's trying to take some of that away by simulating it,
Yeah.
in a low-stress setting. They have a bunch of common interview questions specific to different jobs, and you practice answering them out loud to the AI.
Oh, so it's like a robot interview coach, but without the awkward small talk.
Pretty much. And it doesn't just say good job or whatever. It actually analyzes how you're speaking, your pacing, tone, even body language if you're on video.
Wait, it can see you through the camera? That's kind of creepy, ain't cool?
Right. It's getting very Black Mirror, but think about it. We all know how we act in an interview matters, not just the words.
Hmm.
So being able to get feedback on that could be huge, especially for people who, get nervous easily.
True, I talk with my hands like crazy when I'm nervous. Maybe the AI can give me a virtual high five every time I don't.
See. But no matter how good the AI gets, it's not the same as a real person, right? You still got to think on your feet, handle curveballs, that human element.
So it's a practice tool, not a guarantee. Makes sense. But what I'm really confused about is that plugin they keep mentioning, RoleCatcher.capture. It's like, what even IS that? They make it sound like magic.
Yeah, we touched on it, but it's worth another look because they push it hard. It's a browser extension, so you're on a website, see a job, click capture, and it saves it.
Okay, handy, but I've already got like a million bookmarks. What's so special about this?
It's not just saving the link, that's the thing. When you hit capture, it grabs the important stuff company, title, where it is, the requirements, and puts it right into your RoleCatcher job board.
So instead of a jumbled mess of links, I've got like an organized list.
Exactly. And get this, it can pre-fill applications with the info you've already given RoleCatcher.
Hold up. So I see a job I like, click a button, and I'm like halfway done before I even start.
That's the idea, yeah. Now, how well it actually works is another story. We haven't tested that part. But it shows how much job hunting is moving towards just like making it as fast and easy as possible.
Which, I get it, time is precious when you're applying everywhere. But part of me likes writing a really good cover letter, tailoring my resume, making it feel personal.
Oh, totally. There's something to be said for that, definitely. It goes back to that balance automation versus being genuine.
Right. You don't want to be a robot applicant. But okay, say this plugin does work. What about, like, privacy? They're getting a lot of my info if I use this thing.
Good point. Anytime a platform's this hands-on with your data, you got to know what their privacy policy is, how they're using your stuff, are they keeping it safe, all that.
So, like, I need to be a cybersecurity expert on top of everything else.
Maybe not that intense. But being informed is key. Don't just click through blindly.
All right, so be cautious, but open to new stuff. Makes sense. But before we get too lost in that, what about the career guidance stuff? That's what got me interested in RoleCatcher in the first place.
Definitely. And that Clinical Psychologist guide is a great example. It goes way beyond just job titles and how much they pay.
Remind me what was so special about it.
It had those alternative paths, right? It wasn't just being a therapist. There was market research, industrial psychology, even that UX design thing. It got you thinking differently.
Yeah, it's like, here are your skills, but use them in ways you hadn't thought of.
Yeah.
Way more exciting than just pick a lane and stay in it.
Exactly. And it gave real advice on how to make those jumps, networking, explaining your skills differently for different jobs, that kind of stuff.
So it's actionable, not just daydreaming. I like that. But honestly, looking at all this, it is a lot to take in. Where do you even start?
Totally get it. Information overload is real. RoleCatcher needs to recognize that and give people some clearer direction.
Yeah, like it's a GPS for your career, but you got to know where you want to go first.
That's a good way to put it. And speaking of direction, maybe we should steer this back to the more practical stuff.
Do you mean that jobs page we keep dancing around? All right, let's do it. All right, back to it. Last time we were about to get into the nitty-gritty of this jobs page on RoleCatcher, and honestly, I'm still kind of stuck on like the whole philosophy of it. You know, they're really pushing this idea of like automating your job hunt. And I get it. Who doesn't want things to be easier? But does it go too far?
Yeah, it's a balancing act for sure. But I think what they're going for is more like giving you tools, not taking over. It's still on you to use them right.
Okay, so more like a power-up than a cheat code.
Yeah.
I like that. But walk me through this jobs page specifically, because they mentioned some interesting stuff. Visual board, was it?
Right. They call it the board view, and it's supposed to help with that whole feeling of like, there's so many jobs, where do I even start? It's like, picture a big whiteboard, but online, and you can put all the jobs you're interested in on there.
Okay, so far so good. I'm already picturing like color coding and stuff.
Exactly. And you can organize them by like, need to apply, applied, interviewing. You get the idea.
So it's like gamifying the job search a bit,
Yeah.
making it less intimidating.
Kinda, yeah. You can literally see yourself making progress, which is motivating.
Okay, sold on the concept, but let's bring the AI back into it. They say it analyzes job ads and then helps you tailor your stuff, right? What's that actually look like?
Right. So remember how we talked about those applicant tracking systems, the ATS, the robots? Well, RoleCatcher claims their AI looks at how those systems work, figures out what they want, and then makes sure your resume and cover letter have the best chance of getting through.
So fighting fire with fire.
Yeah.
Or robots with smarter robots.
Basically. But it's not just about cramming keywords in there. The AI is supposed to pick out the skills and experience that are really important for each job and highlight those in a natural way.
So playing the game, but not being shady about it.
Exactly. Using tech to your advantage, but still being genuine.
Okay, I'm seeing the value here, for sure. But But big picture, after looking at all this stuff, is RoleCatcher like the answer to all your job hunting problems?
I'd say it's got huge GE potential, but like any tool, it's only as good as the person using it, right? You still got to put in the work, show your personality, all that. It's not magic.
So no guarantees, but a powerful tool in the right hands. That makes sense. Should our listeners be like dropping everything and signing up right now then?
If you're feeling lost in the job search or just curious about this kind of tech, it's definitely worth checking out. I'm really interested to see how it evolves, honestly.
Me too.
Yeah.
And on that note, I think we've officially reached the end of our RoleCatcher deep dive. Hopefully everyone listening has some new food for thought, maybe some new tools in their job hunting belt.
Yeah, and hey, if anyone out there lands an amazing job because of something they learned here, let us know. We love a good success story.
Absolutely. That's what we're all about. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive, and we'll see you next time for more career adventures.